What's up, y'all? What's up? Excited to be back. If y'all don't know me already, I'm Bree Flemons. I'm the founder of Jem Social. And today I'm talking to my small business owners. I'm talking to my small brands. I'm talking to all y'all. Even if maybe you're just a solopreneur who has like a consumer facing product, and maybe you even have a B2B product, influencer, marketing, content creators, UGC, they're all perfect for everybody. But today I'm just going to talk about the influencer marketing side. And I'm specifically talking to those who have small brands or small budgets, right? First and foremost, I know what it's like to feel invisible. So I am not coming from a place where I don't understand where y'all feel or how y'all feel. But to feel like the big brands get it all the shine, all the influencers, all the results, I'm going to tell you right now, small brands can win big with influencer marketing. And I know because I've seen it. I've seen it happen all over. One, I've seen it because as a DJ who leveraged influencers to get more people to come to my events. That's number one. I've seen it. And that's helped me with my awareness at the time when I was building my name as a DJ. That's why I said, even if you're a solopreneur, it can work. Then when I became an event producer, I remember I had an Art Basel event. I was scared out my dang mind. Shitless. I say. I leverage influencers as well to promote the event in exchange for a free ticket, VIP tickets on top of that. And some people allowed them free slots to perform because they knew that they were going to perform in front of hundreds of people for free. So I was able to leverage that. I leveraged their pages to get me more ticket sales, and I even allowed them to be affiliates. Still won. And then I also used to work for an entire digital marketing firm, one of the best, but I'm not going to disclose it. In Miami, and we worked with some brands that were small and mid-tier brands and obviously larger tier enterprise brands, and I've seen them all win in every sector with influencers. And that was back in 2018, and they're still winning now, to be honest. And I've seen some of those small brands that were just small scale into large companies, and they were able to leverage influencers, especially for their sales and their awareness. So I say to say that I've seen it happen over and over again, and I've lived it. Now, why do I actually care about this? Because before I built Jem Social, I was just like y'all. I was trying to figure it out. I was trying to see how to get people to actually notice my projects. Obviously, I try to get people to notice Jem Social. And I watched big brands throw money at influencers like it was nothing, and small businesses and brands were kind of just stuck, guessing their way through things, getting scammed, running ads that didn't convert. And I've been that person too. I've had an e-commerce business. I've had an event business. I've had all kinds of businesses that you can imagine. And I won with some, I've lost some. We win some, we lose some. But my thought at the time was, well, why can't small brands have that same tools and same power? Now, something that I've noticed is that a lot of small brands don't have the budget to even use these tools to find influencers faster and within their budget, because the tool itself, a lot of our competitors are charging hundreds of dollars a month, and that's not even including that maybe we need to have a budget or something of value to provide to influencers, right? So I say it to say that kind of gave me the leverage to build Jem Social to what it is today. So I get what it feels like to be on the other side wondering, okay, well, one, is influencer marketing worth it? And two, how do I go about it? Because it's the how that's really whooping people's behind, right? So everyone's going to tell you influencer marketing is powerful, because I'm telling you that as well. Obviously, it's the founder of an influencer marketing marketplace, right? And platform and tool. But they don't tell you a few things. See, one of the issues that small brands make is the fake numbers. People will, and brands make the mistake booking that one influencer. Oh, I'm gonna pay that person $2,000. She has 100,000 followers. She's going to sell at my event. She's going to sell at my merch. She's going to sell out this store. That couldn't be more incorrect. Even if their numbers were real, who's to say that their audience is for you? So let's say that I have an influencer with 100,000 followers, and let's say that she's a beauty influencer and you're an event producer, and let's say that your event is an R&B event. Okay, well, what if your R&B event is in LA and y'all book this person, right, who has 100,000 followers? If you don't know if their audience is in LA or that the audience interest is into R&B events, right, then you're just booking another person just to book them. So if you pay that $2,000 to that influencer, right, and let's say that your event is either free and you make money from a percentage of the bar, or maybe you charge $5, $10, maybe $20 for the actual R&B event. That means you need to sell at least, let's just say $10 as the average for the ticket. You need to sell 200 tickets. Do you really think that one person post, and maybe story post too, like one person's Instagram reel or post or repost, do you really think that that's going to help you sell 200 tickets? Maybe a few if you get lucky. But again, if her audience is not interested in that, you're likely not going to win, Buki. So I say that to say that maybe you should try to find more micro influencers that already talk about R&B events. You can easily do that. Not just on our tool, but even if you're on TikTok, you can find more people who already go to these R&B events and recap them, right? I'm not talking about just like a videographer. I'm not talking about something for your internal page. I'm saying, why don't you find somebody with that interest already that's building engagement and momentum around that? And it could be micro influencers. It could be nano influencers. Just look for that engagement. I've already talked about how to find winning pieces of content already. So if you refer to that video, you can follow that same method where you go on TikTok and find that right piece of content and reinvent the wheel. But you want to make sure that you find those influencers that are already talking about R&B events in LA, right? And then you can go from there. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is the intimidation factor, right? You know, being a small brand, sometimes you feel like you're too small to even reach out to creators. That is absolutely, positively not true. In fact, again, that's why I said if you're a small brand, maybe you can start with small creators. Don't spend your entire budget on that one macro influencer because they likely don't care. And the smaller creators have a more engaged audience sometimes because it feels relatable. I have, as of date, 18,000 followers, and I still can say that a lot of the people that comment on my stories, on my TikToks, on my posts, etc., they still feel like they know me, right? Because honestly, they do. I'm engaged with them enough. But once you go for those macro influencers, they don't always respond to the comments. They always respond to the replies. They're so far gone, and unless they actually build community around their brand, like, people don't really know them. There's not that relatability. But events build community. So community builds that relatability because you guys all have a common interest. Same thing. If you have a product, maybe you have a beauty product, maybe you have a fitness brand, maybe you're a fitness trainer, whatever it may be, you need to find that relatability with the creators. So if another example could be even restaurants, right? If you have like a Latin fusion restaurant, right? You likely aren't going to book a Caucasian female, right, to come to your restaurant and shoot content. Just being honest and being real, because I tell y'all all the time, I want to give y'all the real. You're probably gonna end up booking that food influencer or that foodie that already recaps restaurants in that space. So like I said, Latin fusion, maybe you could find that Latin foodie, because guess what? The relatability is there. He, she, they may already have an audience that's engaged that is, one, predominantly Latin, and two, maybe in that area. So in that case, that's when you can go on the tool. And I try to give you guys, all right, y'all. So let's say that you're looking for a Latin foodie on Jem Social, right? So I'm already recording, and keep in mind that because TikTok doesn't necessarily give you some kind of selection for your city, you're gonna have to go around and figure out ways to find people in a certain city throughout filters. But Instagram does. So let's start with Instagram, because a lot of people on Instagram have TikTok. So you will select the filter Instagram. You're gonna put in link in bio, or not link in bio, apologies, the keywords in the bio. I'll put Latina in first. I'm playing around with this. Let's say that they're, obviously a creator. They are in Miami, because that's what we're looking for. So let's see. Yeah, don't put Miami Beach, because Miami Beach is just a town there. Put the whole city, Miami. Florida. All right, let's make sure that the creator, because I expanded this, so you can see fewer, you can see more. You want to make sure the creator also has TikTok as well. The gender I'll keep open, because you will see, food influencers that are male or female. I'll be honest, a lot of people end up being biased towards females when it comes to creators, just being honest. So that's keep in mind. And if you want them to speak Spanish, then you can choose this in the language. I don't have my Wi-Fi on at this hotel, but you can choose that. But for now, I'm going to choose English, because even though a lot of people in Miami speak Spanish, a lot of them do also know English as well. So I'm just going to keep English, to be fair. And also, I lived in Miami, so this is why I know this. And if I'm a brand, I want to make sure that I'm getting this out to as many people as possible, right? All right, so I'm going to just keep going down. Now, like I said, start with some nano influencers, and you can always, creator has these options. We cover all of these, social platforms, so Snapchat, etc. Wherever you want it to be, cool. But I'll be honest, if you're a restaurant, I would want to be seen on TikTok, especially Instagram too, but TikTok is where people really look for those recommendations. All right, so this is so far what we have, but what we're missing is the foodie part, right? So I would also, let's keep experimenting, right? I would also, you see all the Latin influencers and such, but I would also probably add in here foodie. And this is just me testing it out. And let's just decrease that and let's just see what kind of results we get. All right, boom. Look at all these nano influencers and micro influencers that are foodies, y'all. You know, so keep in mind, right? Do you need to pay all these rates, you know, like 2.7 thousand? This is actually a grill, so you can ignore that. But you want to just take some time to really look through these people. But now you find a bunch of foodies, right, that are literally in Miami, Latino as well, that are interested in this. So that's just something to keep in mind, and you can search through this and see. I personally would try to stay, you know, to the people that are more like on the micro influencer side, but you could look through their data, you know. So I'm just going to extract their data. I just pull up this person's just a food blogger as well. Como dice, I already like the name. So as the data is getting prepared for you, because it's pulling in data from Instagram, TikTok, you can see how many people they have on Instagram. You can see how many people they have on TikTok, and it looks like that's why they're showing up as a micro influencer, because they have less on TikTok. But look, they have higher engagement on TikTok, so you can offer them, you know, maybe a $75 credit plus $100, you know, or maybe a higher credit, right? But you want to make sure you're valuing, like, of course, their suggested rate and going from there. And then look, it looks like their creator growth is going down a bit. So that's probably a good way to kind of negotiate the rate. But if you know, like I said, if you can find that winning piece of content on TikTok and just have them reproduce that, then that probably will, one, not just help you, it's going to help the creator. But yeah, you can look through the lookalikes and find other people, you know, closer to your budget as well. You can check out their analytics. You can see their hashtag. So clearly she's literally talking about food. Right, so we already validated that. So that's something to keep in mind. And you can go through multiple of them and select like 5 people. So let's say that, you know, like I say, you're a restaurant, maybe you have, you know, a budget of $1,000. Choose 5 to 10 of these people and find that winning content format. And like I said, you could offer the food as the value as well. So they get free food. They have a $75 in-kind credit, you know, in-person credit. So that way they can get an appetizer, you know, an entree, maybe even a dessert and a drink. And then another thing would be having events for these foodies. You can invite them out and you can literally send them an offer directly through the marketplace. So you can select the offer type. Maybe it'll be gifted. I won't say affiliate because they're not going to get a percentage of each sale in the restaurant space, but maybe if you are something else, maybe you are a what's it called? Maybe you have a brand and that is a product, right? That's when the affiliate would be making sense. But in this case, as a restaurant, it would probably either be gifted or a one-off paid post or a long-term collaboration. Maybe you have them come in all the time making content. That's something I would do if you see it's winning. And here you can already add some quick ads. You want something on your Instagram feed, Instagram reel, one video on TikTok, product review. So that could be the food review and brand mention. And if I was you, I would make sure that there's a call to action to RSVP. Whatever the call to action needs to be, you know, RSVP or make a reservation or subscribe, whatever it may be, make sure that they have a call to action in that link. So that could be to the open table, the resi. If you're, like I said, if you're a product, that might be straight to your website, straight to the product itself. Just don't give people, you know, a hard time to figure out, how do I book this? How do I buy this? How do I reserve this? You know, make sure you have that deadline. We already have it pushed out a week in general because influencers need time to either get there or make content in general. But, you know, use a general rule of thumb. If you're a restaurant, give people a week or 2 because you don't know their life. They might need to get there and still edit the content and get it out to you, you know, as a draft. But if it's something where like they don't need to come in person, obviously, maybe they're just sitting down doing a talking head like this and saying like, look, I don't know if y'all ever been to so-and-so restaurant, but I can't wait to get there today. Look at their happy hour meals, blah, blah, blah. That would take less time because they're just sitting in their home doing this. Make sure they have good lighting, of course. And there's already a personalized message that's created. And this attachment, this is when you can attach like a file with like maybe inspiration links of good, you know, Latin food bloggers there that have made stellar content that's already went viral that you want to have. So that's just something to keep in mind. All right, now that I went over this and gave y'all some juicy details, let's get back to some other tips. So how small brands can win with influencer marketing. The point is, let's get into the next thing, content rights. So many brands don't know that you have to negotiate usage rights. And that's only if, one, you want to run an ad with the winning piece of content, which I will say this. See if the content works first. So you book this small influencer, let's say you book 5 of them. On our campaign tracking tool, you can actually see if this content did good. So maybe you got a lot of conversions, maybe you sold a lot of tickets, maybe you got a lot of people on your email list, maybe you got a lot of people to check out of their cart. You know, you saw some kind of good and positive return on your investment. So let's say you spent 50 to 100 bucks on each nano influencer or even micro influencer, and you're seeing a great return on maybe 2 of them. Okay, well now you know that piece of content is working. So now you reach out to them and say, hey, this piece of content is performing well. I'd love to pay you X amount, to run this as an ad. And we would like to keep the content because we'd love to use this in the future. Because you've already saw it's one. I personally, and this is me, others may differ, but I personally don't see the point of getting content users rights for something that's not working, especially as a small brand. Big brands can afford to do that because maybe it's not working right now. For example, if you're running a holiday content campaign, obviously that's not going to work if it's for the particular holidays like Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, etc. That's not obviously going to work during Miami Fashion Week or Miami Swim Week or New York Fashion Week, because it's for holidays. So see which one actually works and then ask for their actual content to be yours, because that means that you can actually use it for your own internal website, your ads that you're running, your own page, that will help you out as well. And that also helps you have more kind of like social proof with other influencers. Now, misalignment. We kind of already talked about this a bit, but I'll talk about it a little bit more. Again, the misalignment would be like if you were a Latin restaurant and you book, a Caucasian person to talk about it. Doesn't mean it's not going to work, but it's just right now, as a small brand, you have a small budget. You want to be as right as possible. You want to be as aligned as possible. So working with influencers just that look good on paper, just to say, oh yeah, we had so-and-so here, all right? And as a consumer, I want to know why they were there anyways, if you had them there. And also, you don't want someone to misrepresent your brand. At this time, I would hate to have a brand that's misrepresented by somebody who looks a fool on the internet and honestly would make my brand look bad. This brand is your art. You don't want your art to look weird. You don't want your brand to look bad. So don't have anyone that's going to make your brand look bad, because that's going to honestly mess up your community and mess up your audience and mess up your revenue in the long run. So don't just work with influencers just because they so-called possibly look good on paper, because they might not actually connect with your target audience or demographic. So these are just, some hidden landmines that nobody talks about, but if you know how to avoid them, influencer marketing is definitely going to be your cheat code. And here's the secret, right? Small brands are winning just because they're genuinely in alignment with the right influencers. They just need the right ones. So another example I'll give is, let's say you own a coffee shop. I love going to coffee shops. I think a lot of us do. I would partner with a foodie or a lifestyle creator in the city with 5,000 loyal followers. And if they already go over and talk about different coffee shops, just be another one to talk about. If you sell skincare, work with a girl who posts skincare routines every night and has maybe 20,000 people in her comments or in general, asking her where did she buy this? Those are social signals that you want to keep out for. Where did they get this? How much was this? Do you really recommend this, right? If you're hosting an event, tap into the local creators whose audience actually shows up offline, right? So something that I've seen recently was a boutique in Houston, right? She worked with just 5 local influencers. And just to be more clear, it's a clothing store for people who don't understand the boutique style stuff. But they worked with 5 local influencers, and their store literally tripled traffic in one weekend. And they even had a DJ there. So they had a DJ, they basically had a community event at the boutique, but it literally tripled their store traffic and 10x their sales for the weekend. Another one was a food brand. They gave out samples to 20 nano influencers at their event. And suddenly, bigger influencers ended up picking them up organically, because now they're like, hold up, that FOMO. Why these influencers there? You know what I'm saying? You don't want to, it's that fear of missing out. We're human. So people are like, hold up, I want to go too. So those influencers pre-promoted the event, and the bigger influencers ended up showing up, right? Houston Creators Market. If you're in Houston, maybe you're familiar with the Creators Market. They booked some fashion influencers to attend their fashion creator market in May, and they actually have one coming up this October. So bigger influencers ended up going too, because all those other nano influencers, micro influencers, mid-tier influencers ended up attracting those like local celebrities. And I know because we actually sponsored that event, so I saw the success of influencer marketing with them, and we actually have a case study about them as well, because I think that that's very important. And mind you, the woman behind that brand, that is, I believe, her third or fourth creators market, because she had one in Jersey City, she had one in Brooklyn, and she then had one in Houston, New Orleans, Miami, so on. But she's just rinse and repeating that playbook. And there's so many more case studies. But the point is, like, all of those in common was the alignment, right? So this is how I know it works, because honestly, the reason I believe in this so strongly is because I just see it play out over and over and over again on Jem Social every day, every week. Now, do I see the losses? Yes, but those are the people that genuinely don't listen. You have to apply these things. Like, you genuinely have to, whether you have the tools, whether you have the TikTok, the Instagram. If you're not listening and applying, which most people don't, only 10 to 15% of people actually apply what we say to do, of course, but when we see those wins, we know that they listen. So we've had creators booked by brands who thought they were, too small to matter, but they ended up winning. They literally ended up winning. It started a movement, getting tickets sold out, built buzz. So like I said, I know small brands can win with influencer marketing because I built a platform around it. I'm watching it over and over again, and it works. So if you're a small brand, stop telling yourself you're too small to play this game. Influencer marketing was made for you. You're already a brand. Make some money with it, Build community with it. Scale your revenue with it. Scale your audience with it. But if you want the process to be easier, that's literally why I built Jem Social. So we're trying to put the power back in your hands. And with that being said, get on the platform. We have a free trial, so you can literally try out this for free, risk-free. Subscribe for more tips. Let's make sure that your brand gets the visibility that it deserves. I'll catch you on the next episode.